afternoon. Thank you for coming. It's amazing to be back in South Africa. Thank you for having me. To the Sinai and Dava team, wherever they are, they're unbelievable. To the Chief Rabbi, unbelievable. I hope you all appreciate what you have and having such a strong, you do? Amazing. Yeah. To have someone who's a dreamer and a doer, it's very rare. You're very, very lucky. You see the power of what one person can do. It's very inspiring. So, will I ever drink hot coffee again? So this class is parenting under stress. That was the topic. So I think the funny thing about the topic is I don't know when we parent not under stress. You know what I'm saying? Because just the world today, you turn on the news, you gotta cringe, what attack, what natural catastrophe, what, God knows what's going on in the world today. And if it happens to be a slow news day, and the world isn't falling down around your ears, then someone spills coffee on your computer. You know what I'm saying? It's always something. You can't find your keys, you ran out of this, right? There's always something. There's always stress coming in at some point. And children do not come with a pause button. Have you noticed this? This is something we need to invent, right? Because if they came with a pause button, it would probably stunt their growth because we'd always put them on pause. But they don't. So you have to parent them now. You can't wait for things to be calm to parent them later when you feel like it, right? They need to be parented in the middle of your stress. So stress will get in the way of us parenting the way that we want to, the way that we know that we could. So imagine the following scenario. Imagine it's a Sunday night and you're having guests for dinner, and it's someone you want to impress, your boss or whatever. And your guests are coming in about 15 minutes, everything's done, all you're doing is, you're lighting the candles, you're fixing the flowers, the kids are in bed early, the food is ready, you look great, everything's fantastic. You hear your little girl come down the stairs, your cute little 7-year-old girl, she comes down and she says, "Mommy, can I get a drink?" Or "Daddy, can I get a drink?" And you're like, "Oh, she's out of bed," right? So you're a little annoyed, but you're like, "Okay, I can keep this together." You're like, "Sure, sweetie, just go help yourself to a glass of water, a glass of water." And yes, I have to translate. And then skedaddle back to bed, right? I'm getting the mother A+ thing tonight. Okay, fine. And then you hear a crash. You go running to see what happened. Your cute little girl dropped her glass on the way back to bed. Now, why she took a glass instead of a plastic cup is question number one, okay? But it wasn't, sometimes glasses break and it's 3 big pieces, right? You almost could glue it back together. Not tonight. Tonight, it's one of those breaks where it's like pebbles of glass. You know what I mean? How much glass was in that glass? What? And she didn't drop it deep in the kitchen by the refrigerator. She dropped it right by the front door where your boss is going to walk in 15 minutes. And it wasn't water. It was orange juice. Okay, do you feel the stress going up? Okay? Could you imagine maybe you would just yell just a little bit at this cute little girl, right? This may not be your strongest parenting moment ever, right? Okay, now, take the same situation, the same cute little girl, the same broken glass, okay, but you're not expecting any guests for any kind of dinner whatsoever. You're in your den, in your comfy pajamas, with a nice cup of tea, and you're looking through baby pictures of this cute little 7-year-old girl, reminiscing about how sweet she was, right? And now you hear the crash. Same thing. Can you imagine you would parent better now? Now you're not stressed out, you're centered. Now your this moment's gonna make the cover of Parenting magazine, right? Because you're not feeling stress. So we see that the parenting issue in both scenarios is the same. The only parenting question is, how do I parent a child who just accidentally dropped a glass? That's the only parenting issue here. That it was water, not orange juice, makes no difference. That your boss is coming in 15 minutes is irrelevant. That the geography, it's by the front door, not by the kitchen, who cares? None of that matters. The only parenting issue is, how do I parent a child who just accidentally dropped a glass? So the answer is, Well, how do you like to be treated when you accidentally dropped a glass? You don't want to lecture on clumsiness and glass versus plastic and, the value of going slowly. You just want someone to say, it's okay, sweetie, let me help you clean that up. No, but that's all you want. That's all your kid needs. That's it. But the stress gets in the way of us being able to parent the way we want. So we need to separate the issues. Number one, what is good parenting? What is the definition of parenting? How do I do that well when there is no pressure? What are we doing? And then part two is how do I do that under stress? Let's separate the issues. So number one, definition of parenting. Judaism is very into defining our terms. We said that chachma, which is the Jewish word for wisdom, chachma rearranged is koach ma, the power of what? If you want to have wisdom, you have to understand what things are at their essence so you can use them well. So what is parenting? So parenting in Hebrew is called chinuch banim, the education of the children. But chinuch doesn't really mean education. Chinuch really means dedication, like the holiday of Hanukkah. So what happened on Hanukkah? The Greeks took over the temple. They were using it for idol worship. The Maccabees got it back, and in their rededicating the temple back to God, they were lighting the menorah. The oil lasted for 8 days. We all know the story. But it was in that dedication of the temple that the miracle happened, and that's why we call it Hanukkah, dedication. If the synagogue buys a new building or someone buys a new house, they have a Chanukat Habayit, a dedication of the house. So a dedication means before you start using something, you take a moment and you focus, what are we going to be using this thing, this house, this place for? And we have a moment where we focus on what we're going to be using it for. So imagine this. Imagine we are the event planning committee for a synagogue, okay? And we have 2 events to plan. The first event we need to plan is the synagogue just bought a new playground. We just installed an entire new playground, and we want to have an opening, a dedication of the playground. So in a smaller class, I'd go around. There's a lot of you. I'll just give it to you. Everybody says the same thing anyway. So if I say, what kind of food should we serve at this dedication of the playground? So people say barbecued braai type food, right? Candy floss and hot dogs and hamburgers. When should we have this event? A Sunday afternoon. Is this a kid-friendly event? Obviously. Where should the event be? At the playground. What should the attire be? Casual, right? Everybody says the same thing. Great, that's our event. We have a second event that we're planning. We just hired a new rabbi. Do you guys call this an installation of the rabbi? Yes? No? In America, they call it the I'm like, is he a refrigerator? We're installing the new rabbi. I don't understand, but okay, whatever. So we're going to install the new rabbi. So what kind of event should we have for that? Everybody says the same thing. This is for adults, not a kid friend. You can bring a kid, but it's not for kids. It should be in the evening. It should be in the sanctuary. More upscale food, cocktails, hors d'oeuvres, maybe some music. And the highlight of the event should be the rabbi addressing the congregation in the sanctuary from the podium in all of his splendor. Right? Everybody agrees? Okay. I have an idea. Why don't we swap these events? We want the children to have gratitude to the parents and the donors who built this playground and understand that we did this for their health and they're having fun. So maybe the children should wear a suit and tie and speak at the podium about the importance of exercise and health and fun for children. And we want the kids to know how accessible the rabbi is. Let's let him get in shorts and sneakers. We'll watch him go down the slide. What do you say? Ridiculous, right? You can't have a dedication for something if you're not honoring the role that thing is going to play. Yes, we want the children to have gratitude, but children have a playground to play. At the dedication, children should be playing, not speaking. Yes, we want everyone to know the rabbi is accessible, but the rabbi's there to be a leader, not to be the fun guy on the slide. The dedication has to have symmetry. It has to match. It has to foreshadow what the thing is going to be. So taking this back to parenting, to chinuch banim, in order to be able to dedicate the children, you have to get who the children are. In order to dedicate the child, you have to understand, who is this child? When you're able to dedicate them to who they're going to be, that is the essence of parenting. So what's the definition of parenting? It's very simple. Parenting is preparing people for life. That's it. We make it so complicated. It's not complicated. It's very straightforward. Parenting is preparing people for life. And this is why children are born so helpless. You think human beings were like the most elevated, sophisticated being on the planet. But if you look at a giraffe, they're born, they're up, they're walking in 10 minutes, right? They eat, they walk, they're moving around. A human being, we're like pathetic. Like, we can't walk, we can't sit, you can't even hold your head up, you can't eat, you can't even burp. I mean, you can't do anything. Why? Because we need this process of getting ready for adulthood. Children are actually just here to be apprenticed. New children, the babies, they're just the new souls on the planet that are beginning their journey here. And they just need someone older and wiser to take them by the hand and show them how this place works. So the new souls get apprenticed to the old souls. That's us. And it's our job to spend this period of life called a childhood, parenting these little souls. It just means this is the time where we prepare them for life. It takes about 18 years, maybe 35, depends who you ask, okay? But that's what it's all about. It's very simple. So when you first have a baby, right, the needs are very universal, right? It's not so specific. All babies are the same. They're cute, they're little, they cry, like whatever. And they all need basic human functional needs: eat, sleep, hygiene, love. We now know that love is a basic human need. If a baby doesn't get love, they actually die. So love, they need love. When they become a toddler, then we need to teach them more things: how to use a fork, how to brush their teeth, how to say sorry, how to lose well, how to win well, all these things. As the kid starts getting older, this is when things get interesting, because now they start getting a personality. And now we start tailoring the dedication of this child to be exactly who they are. And this is where the most famous verse of child raising comes in, a verse that's in Mishlei. It says, Chanoch lena'ar al pi darko, gam ki yazkin lo yasur mimenu, which means educate or dedicate the child according to his way. Even when he gets older, he won't turn away from it. So the rabbis jump on this, because we know there's no such thing as an extra idea in the Torah. It's very specific the way it's written. So they say, why does it say darko, his way? It should say educate the child according to the way, objective truth. The Torah is telling us something very deep here. Each child has their own way. And in order to dedicate this child to who they're going to be, we have to get who this kid is essentially at their core, so that we can dedicate them to their life. Imagine a family who has 2 children. And anyone who has more than 2 children knows, right? Your kids come out totally different. It's like same house, same family, same language, same everything, and 2 completely different kids. So imagine a family who has 2 kids. Family doesn't know it yet, but this kid is going to grow up to be a doctor who cures cancer, and this kid is going to grow up to be a comedian. Can you understand the different ways that you need to raise these kids? Not just in the obvious ways of like, this kid needs science class and this kid needs, I don't know, humor class or whatever. Not just like that. Think about the personality of the doctor who's going to cure cancer. That child is probably going to be an introvert, because they're going to need to spend hours in a lab by themselves, in their minds, working out the different strategies and the different formulas. You're going to need to spend a lot of time by yourself. That kid will probably be a dreamer, because they have to think that you're going to be the one who cures cancer. You got to dream big. That may show up when you're parenting as floaty, forgetful, spaced out. They're not spaced out, they're dreaming. They need that. The doctor who's going to cure cancer probably needs to be stubborn, because you don't cure cancer the first time. You got to stick with it for years with something frustrating by yourself. You have to have a stubborn streak. Now, stubborn's going to be very hard to parent, because we think stubborn is a bad trait. But stubborn is not a bad trait. It depends how you use it. The Jewish people is called Am Kashei Oref, a stiff-necked people, which is just a biblical way of saying that Jews are stubborn. That's what we are. But we needed that trait, because you can't go out in the world for thousands of years with all these different Jewish ideas that are so different than the rest of the world, and different food, and different holidays, and different values, unless you're stubborn. You don't come back to Israel after 2,000 years unless you're stubborn. Stubborn isn't bad, it just depends how you use it. It's like a hammer. A hammer's only a bad thing if you go around breaking windows with it. But if you use it to build and to fix things, a hammer's a great thing to have around. Stubborn's just a tool. It depends how you use it. Stubborn does not need to be eradicated. It needs to be molded. It's not evil. If you think about a potter with clay on the wheel, is that what it's called, a potter? The guy who, you don't know? Yes? Okay, good, I know. In Cape Town, they didn't know, so I just it's called a potter. Okay, so it is actually called a potter. So imagine that lump of clay on his wheel. He doesn't smash it, and he doesn't let it do whatever he wants. He molds it and shapes it until it's something beautiful. That's the job of a parent. Our job as a parent is to get to open our child's toolbox and get to know their tools and help explain them to the child. It's like this show Chopped. Do you have the show Chopped in South Africa? Yeah? Okay, so those of you who don't know, Chopped is a cooking show. It's like a competition, and there's 4 chefs, and they're all standing in the kitchen ready to cook, but they each have a closed basket. And at the start of the competition, they have to open their basket, and they get all these wonky ingredients. They one time actually had gefilte fish. I was like, good luck with that. All these crazy ingredients, and they have to somehow make a meal out of these crazy ingredients. Okay, that's your kids. Your baby is your closed basket. All babies are the same. They're cute, they spit up, whatever, But as they grow up, it's our job to help the kid unpack what's in this basket. And it's our job to help identify to them what's in their basket. It's not our job to make a meal, to make a life out of their tools. That's their job. It's our job to make a life out of what's in our own basket. That's hard enough. It's our job with our kids to just play the role of coach. So as the kid is unpacking their basket, they can turn to us and say rhubarb? Mom, what do I do with rhubarb? So I don't actually know. That's a bad example for me. But we don't have rhubarb in America. We do, but I don't know what to do with it. But let's say chopped meat. You call that mincemeat here, right? Let's say mincemeat. So the kid takes out mincemeat, and they say, Mom, what do I do with mincemeat? So I can explain it to them. You can make hamburgers, you can make meatloaf, you can make meatballs, right? I can explain. You can do all different things with it. What's going to be bad is if I say, oh, mincemeat. Wow, that stinks. And the kid's gonna say, what's wrong with mincemeat? And I say, oh, catching myself, oh, nothing, honey. It's just, sweet is so much better than savory, because everybody loves dessert, and just not everybody likes mincemeat, and so it's just less, versatile, and it's not as pop. You see that? I just took something that wasn't bad, and I made it bad. And now my child is unhappy with his lot in life. That wasn't my job. It wasn't my job to judge it. You're too extroverted. You're too introverted. You're too sloppy. You're too uptight. That's not my job. It's not my job to judge it. It's my job to identify it to the child and show them the strengths in it. Here's what you can do with this. You could do this, you could do that. And a parent has to be so nimble because each one of your kids is so different. Because while this introverted, stubborn dreamer is going to cure cancer, this one's going to be a comedian. He doesn't take anything seriously. Not school, not work, not you. He's always making a joke out of everything, right? Comedians are always asking personal questions, but they can somehow get away with it. But when they're kids, that's not so easy to parent. Imagine being Jerry Seinfeld's parents, right? How complicated that was? They didn't know he was going to grow up to be a famous comedian. They just thought they got some idiot, the class clown, right? Meanwhile, he was a success waiting to happen, but they didn't know that. So you have these two totally different kids. And each one has their own way. And you have to parent them accordingly. So you can't get the comedian to take anything seriously, but you can't get the doctor to ever go out and play. You can't get the comedian to stop talking already. And you can't get the doctor to make eye contact and have a conversation. But they each have their own way. They each have their own tools. And the question becomes, which came first, the chicken or the egg? I'll tell you what I mean. God sends all of us, each of you, here with a mission. You are here to do something, like we said last night, like many of the speakers have been speaking about. You are born with incredible potential, with incredible power. You are able to do things that no one else can do. The Jewish idea is that each person is sent here with a very specific mission. If someone else could do what you were put here to do, then they would be doing it and you wouldn't be here. The fact that you're here means that you were put here to do something specific and powerful that no one else can do. And I say no one else, I don't just mean in South Africa in 2017. I mean from the beginning of time until the end of time, anywhere in the world, Jerusalem, Buckingham Palace, Washington, D.C., Bangladesh, nobody else was ever created on the planet who could do what you were put here to do. And the same thing is true of your children. So the question becomes, did you become a comedian because you were funny and outgoing and lighthearted? Or were you born funny and outgoing and lighthearted because your mission was to become a comedian? So Judaism would say the second. We would say if God sent you here to do a mission, the way that, it's a different class, but I'll just give you a nugget. The way that you figure out your mission, you look at two things. What are you good at and what do you love doing? Why do you think you love it? God didn't send you here to do something that you hate. He wants you to love your life. He loves you. If God had a refrigerator, your picture would be on it. He loves you. He is your biggest fan. So he sent you here to do something that you're going to enjoy. And he didn't send you here to do something that you're bad at. He sent you here to do something that you're good at. What are you good at? And people are, oh, I'm not good at anything. You're good at a million things. You can talk to people. You can organize things. You can sit for hours. We have all of these talents that we ignore because we think, oh, so what? You only say that about your talents. When somebody else has it, you're like, she's amazing. She's so organized. If you're organized, you're like, don't listen to that voice. Whatever talents you have, that's what you were put here to do. The same thing is true about your kids. They have their talents because that's what they're here to do. So it's our job as parents to help them notice and celebrate their personalities so that they can use it to become great. That's what chanoch lenar al pi darko means. Educate the child according to his way. Because here's what chinuch is not. Chinuch does not mean the fixing of the children. There's nothing to fix. Nobody's broken. There's things to polish, there's things to shape, there's things to nurture, but there's nothing to fix. Nothing is broken. And this usually becomes the main obstacle to our parenting because we forget to make it about the kids and we make it about us. And there's sometimes things that like rub us wrong because it's not how we are. The classical example of this is like the athletic, outgoing dad and the brainy, kind of clumsy kid, right? That's like the stereotypical example is. But you could see this in a million ways. If you're outgoing and charming and your kid is like private and quiet, or if you're opinionated and passionate and your kid is like really, even-keeled about, not passionate about anything, or you're really even-keeled and your kid is really opinionated, or you like everything pretty and just so, and you have that one kid that their clothes like never lay right on them. Very often, God gives you a child who is not like you, so that you can learn to love and appreciate someone different. We have in our hard drive, or pre-programmed, that we're going to love our kids. So who does not have kids? Here you, this girl in the gray shirt. Yes, you. Do you have kids? No, I didn't think so. You look, you're, 10, 8, 12, whatever. Not have children. Okay, one day you hope to have kids, God willing? Are you going to love your kids? How do you know? Maybe you're going to get that like bratty kid that you hate next door, You never know, right? Are you going to love your kids? No matter what, right? We know we are pre-programmed to love our children. If all your kids were like you, bravo, you just did an amazing job. I know you're South African and I called you out, but you were great. We are pre-programmed to love our kids. If all your kids were like you, then you think, I'm fantastic, that's why I love my kids. When you get a kid who's not like you and you love them anyway, we call that growth. If it's just more of you, that's not growth, that's just louder. It's when it's different, that's when you grow. So you're probably going to get a kid who is different from you because that's your soul's homework. That's where you become great. And when we're able to grow and to experience that difference, that's when the parenting becomes something that widens our horizons, that enriches us. I have a friend, she has a PhD from Harvard. Her husband has a PhD from Harvard. Okay, the two of them are married. She thought her kids were going to be like brilliant squared, right? Like, can't wait to see our kids are going to be so smart, okay? They have two daughters. They're smart, but they're like normal smart, not like crazy smart. She was disappointed. She had to mourn a little bit. Now, her PhD from Harvard was in child psychology, so she had a leg up on this one, right? She could do this, right? She said, I had to mourn. Parents feel guilty admitting they're disappointed. So it comes out in all these like under the radar ways and this like passive aggressive. Don't do that. If you're disappointed, admit it. Mourn a little bit, let it go. Then you're able to embrace the child. I have another friend who was a buyer for Ralph Lauren in Manhattan. She's one of these lipstick people. You know, their lipstick's always perfect, these people, right? Everything's perfect. She's gorgeous, everything's perfect. She got married a little bit later in life. Her 5th child had Down syndrome. She said to me, that child taught me more about beauty than anything I've ever experienced in my life. It taught me how shallow pretty was. She said all her other kids, when they had a school play, they would be only focused on themselves in a healthy, normal way. It's not the kids weren't doing anything wrong. You know, mommy, braid my hair. No, braid it again. No, there was a bump. Braid it again. I need this bow. No, I need that bow. I need shoes. Focused on themselves. She said, this kid, when she's in a play, all she cares about is everybody else. Oh, mommy, this one, let's give her this, and that one, let's give her that. And outward. So it changed my whole family. Then she was expecting her 6th child. And we're close enough, we're like sisters, that I could ask her a question that normally you wouldn't ask, but I said, aren't you a little bit afraid? And she said, even if this one has Downs, I want her. This did more for my growth, more for my family. We are deeper people because of this child. There is nothing greater that ever happened to me. Another Downs kid, we want her. So how do you do this practically in your home, in your life? How do you do this? Step 1, just observe. Who is this soul that God sent you? Who is this child? Just notice what they do, what they're good at, what they're bad at, what they love. Just observe, just learn. And then step 2 is identify to them their ingredients. Identify to them their toolbox, because kids really don't know themselves. If you tell a kid they're stupid, they'll believe you. If you tell a kid they're smart, they'll believe you. They've never been anything else. They have no experience on planet Earth. So what you tell them about themselves, they're like, oh, really? I didn't know that. I have a friend that, I mean, not anymore, but I was in like school. He wore like a, you know, when the kids have to wear like a patch over their glasses to like strengthen a weak eye. So he told us in 8th grade, he said the way that they found out he had a weak eye, like they didn't know. He was seeing double his entire like childhood, toddlerhood. He didn't know that, he thought everybody saw double. He didn't know. So one day he said to his mother, Mommy, how do you know which door is the real door? She was like, what? He's like, you know, when there's 2 doors and one's real and one isn't, how do you know which? She's like, you are going to the eye doctor, right? And they found out. He didn't know everybody didn't see the world like that. So when your kids have a trait, they don't know they have that trait. They think everybody has that trait. So now you as the parent, you have a choice. You can see your kid is really like funny, let's say. So you could say, get serious, kid. You know, life isn't all fun and games. You could do that. Or you could say, you know, you make everything so fun. You have the best sense of humor. You could do amazing things with that. I love that about you. If you have a kid who's a dreamer, you could say, you know, get your head out of the clouds. You know, like, hello. You could do that. Or you could say, you have such a vivid imagination. Like when you read a book, you're like in the book. That is like amazing. You could do such creative things with that. I love that about you. If you have a kid who's stubborn, stubborn's a great trait. Stubborn will serve them well when they go to college, when the whole world's crazy, and they're like, not me, right? Stubborn's great. If you have a stubborn kid, you could say, you are so stubborn. Or you could say, when you have values, you really stick to them. I admire that about you. You can do great things with that. It all depends on how you present it to them. And our role as a parent is to be able to tell them, this is what's great about you. Here's what you could do with this. God doesn't make junk. Whatever it is that they got, that is part of their package. So now let's talk about stress. How do you take all of this, the parenting, the building them, the coaching them, how do you do that under stress? So I think that stress comes into parenting in 3 ways. When we think we're failures as parents, when we think our kids are failures, or just something else, like there's stress from another area and we take it out on our kids. So number 1, stress as feeling like a failure as a parent. So self-confidence as a parent is probably the most important ingredient that you need. If you ask a kid, how long does it take a kid to sum up a teacher on the first day of school? Maybe 5 minutes. I would say more like, 2-3 minutes. How long does it take them to sum up a substitute teacher? 10 seconds, man. They look at her, they're like, oh, we're gonna have a good day today, right? Kids, they have like sonar. They know, okay? Don't be the weak substitute teacher in your own house. You can't be mean, that's not nice, but firm, self-confident. This is not a democracy, this is not a free-for-all, okay? You're there to take care of everybody, but you're the one in charge. And when we lose that, and when we end up feeling weak or unsure or insecure, we end up yelling at people and blaming them. It's not about them. So let's talk about self-confidence as a parent for a second. The same way you have your mission, you're here for a very specific reason. So when God has one of his new souls that he wants to send down to the planet, he gives them the best case scenario that they could have. And he's not limited to South Africa in 2017. He looks from the beginning of time until the end of time, everywhere in the world, till he finds the most perfect parent for this soul. And he chose you. I read a story, an essay, written by a woman who was adopted as a little girl. And she tells a story about how when she was little, at bedtime every night, she would ask her mother to tell her the story of her adoption again. And she would paint this beautiful picture of how her mother would describe to her how she walked up and down the aisles of the orphanage until she came to the crib with the prettiest little baby girl she had ever seen. And the woman finishes the essay by saying, I never understood why my friends felt bad for me that I was adopted. I think the 3 most beautiful words in the English language are, I chose you. And that's what God is saying to you. When he needed a parent for this baby, he chose you. You are the best parent that this child could have. If the child could have a better parent, they would, and you wouldn't be raising them. The fact that you're raising them means you were cut out for this, you were made for this, you own this, you cannot fail. The Gemara also says that before a soul is sent down, they choose their own parents. Not only did God choose you, your kids chose you. So tell them that, okay? Another thing you want to give your children is the gift of God. God willing, you should all live to be 120. Say amen. You may not always be there for your kids, but God will. Let them know if God had a refrigerator, their picture would be on it. Let them know that God loves them because he will always be there for them and they will always have that. The second place the stress comes in is when we think our kids are failures, when we're like upset, like, oh, they're not doing this, they're not doing that. So this is where we get into apple seeds and tomato seeds. Now I have 2 black thumbs, I can't plant anything, so I'm just guessing here. But I'm assuming that if you wanted to plant apple trees or tomato plants, you would need 2 completely different schedules of how you would take care of these plants. There's probably different planting times, different soils, different climates, different watering. Yes, any gardeners here? Am I on the right track? Okay, I have no idea, but you're with me. Okay, fine. Imagine you want to plant an apple tree. So you go to the store and you buy your packet of apple seeds and you read up about apple planting and you're on top of it and you're doing everything right. There's only one problem. There's not apple seeds in that bag. Somebody switched the labels. You really have tomato seeds, but you don't know that. So you plant them at the apple time, and you water them the apple way, and you do everything you're supposed to do for apples. Are you going to get apples? No. Are you even going to get good tomatoes? No. We all have our version of apple seed children. But if you get a tomato seed, you need to notice, because treating them like apples won't make them apples, and you won't even get good tomatoes. So you need to notice who this kid is, because tomatoes are really great, and you're missing it. And the third way that stress comes in is just something else is going on, like that dinner. You know, you're just stressed out from something else, and you're feeling inadequate or insecure or inferior, whatever else you're feeling, and you end up blaming it on your kids. So your kids understand this. You know why? Because they live with you. If I would pull this little girl up, which I'm not going to do, or any child, if I would pull any of your children up and interview them, "Gee, sweetheart, what stresses out your mommy?" "And what stresses out daddy?" "And what does daddy do when he gets stressed out?" "Oh, really? Oh, that's so fascinating." "And what does mommy do?" Would they know? They know. They live with you. Okay, you're not fooling anyone. Okay, they know. So when you get stressed out, instead of yelling at everybody and blaming them for your stress, just stop, be self-aware, and say, "Guys, I am so sorry. I am totally stressed out right now because I'm late for Shabbos, because my boss is coming to dinner, because I have to make a phone call, because somebody yelled," whatever it is. "I'm totally stressed out. It has nothing to do with you." Just admit it. And then part two is, so can you help me with fill in the blank? I'm stressed out because of this. It has nothing to do with you. You didn't do anything wrong. So can you help me get dinner on the table? Can you help me? Can you get your brother to bed? Can you go upstairs and play for 5 minutes so I could just have some quiet and just get myself together? Because I want to pull it together. This is modeling good behavior for them, because you're preparing these people for life. One day, they will be the adults stressing out on your grandchildren. Okay? So you want to teach them how to do this well so that your grandchildren aren't abused the way you're abusing. Yes, you get it. Okay, fine. Now, I'm going to finish with my top 5 ways to avoid having a parental temper tantrum. That's what we're talking about, right? These, like, you know, you have these, the kids aren't the only ones throwing temper tantrums, right? Catch me on a day, and it's not so pretty. So the way to avoid a parental temper tantrum, my top 5 ways. Number 1, this is how you don't lose your cool when you're like about to go over the cliff. This is how you pull back. Number 1, pretend you're being taped and your mother-in-law is going to watch it, okay? It works every time, okay? Version 2 of this is just pretend anybody is eavesdropping. Your mother, your mother-in-law, the rabbi, a stranger, okay? Just pretend anybody's listening to you. Your standards suddenly go up, okay? That's number 1. Number 2, whisper. If you feel yourself starting to yell, just stop mid-sentence and drop your voice to a whisper. My kids know I do this all the time. It terrifies them. I don't mean to terrify anybody, but they know this means Mommy's about to lose it. And Mommy doesn't want to lose it. So Mommy's going to whisper now. And they're all like, "Oh my God." Okay, this works every time. Yes, my son is here. He's getting nervous just with me doing that here. Okay. He's 22, he's still nervous, okay? This works, just whisper. You sound like a crazy person, but at least you're not screaming. Okay, number 3, just get out of there. Just get out of that room. Go outside, get a breath of fresh air. Say, "I just have to go to the bathroom." Lock yourself in the bathroom, lock yourself in the room, watch something funny on Facebook. Okay, just get out of there. That space for 5-10 minutes, it just reboots you. You just get a take 2. They'll be fine for 5-10 minutes. Okay, they don't need crazy mommy there. Okay, just get out of there. That's number 3. Number 4, get an electronic babysitter. Okay? Put on a video, put on a tape, put on the TV. Okay, now I know some people are very against these things, and I hear that. But I heard in the name of a very famous education expert, Rebbitzin in Jerusalem, Yes, these electronic babysitters are less than ideal, but lunatic mommy is worse, okay? Go with the electronic babysitter, okay? And way number 5 that you avoid stressing out on your kids is just pretend they're somebody else's kids. You would never treat anybody else's kids the way you treat your kids, right? Just pretend they're somebody else's kids. And the truth is, they really are somebody else's kids. These are really not our kids. These are really God's kids. 18 years flies by. It is so fast. They are just with us on loan. So my bracha to everybody is you are already amazing. I mean, some people are out like shopping today. You came here to learn Torah because you want wisdom. God is very happy with you. God gets nachas from you. You don't have to be perfect to be worthy. You're in the game. There's so few of us left, the Jewish people, there's so few of us left today. For you to be here today means you're in that like top percentage of Jews who are still connected. God is happy with you. Feel self-confident. You are already doing a great job. My bracha to all of us is that God should have nachas from our children, because if he has nachas, we will too. Thank you very much.